Hi, my name is Dianna Nepstad. I'm a pastor in the San Francisco Bay Area in a church called Fellowship Church in Antioch, California. It's my distinct privilege and honor to share with you about just the topic of lightheartedness. I think for many of us, when we think of either accountability in relationships, how we communicate the message of the gospel, I think most of the time we get almost stumbling in a stumbling manner, tripped up in our relationships and how we communicate the message of Jesus. Sometimes we're not aware of how we express it with our faces, maybe in our tone, maybe in how we communicate with one another, and either it's cultural differences, either you've been burned in relationships and maybe a hardness has come upon you. But it's important to check ourselves when it comes to lightheartedness. I remember a time not so long ago about the beginning stages of our ministry when we launched the church. And you know the whole elements of starting a ministry. And for me, being 22 years in, the trenches of just doing life in ministry and doing life with others, we know that we're on the people business. We're in the business of dealing with people, interacting with people, all kinds of personalities, all kinds of facets of depths of relationship. Some are surface, some are deep. And so I distinctly remember a time where I had a girlfriend who was in ministry herself that we had a run-in. And that run-in really wore on my spirit. And in turn, it burned me. And so like many of you, maybe some of you have been burned in relationships, maybe disappointed. And so with that gift of suspicion has kind of crept in. And if you know and realize in the New Testament, there's no such thing as the gift of suspicion. There's no fruit of the Spirit when it comes to being suspicious of other people. But at times that can creep into ministry. And I'd like to read a scripture to you just dealing with this whole aspect of lightheartedness, especially when it comes to relationships. And it's from Proverbs chapter 17, verse 22. And it says this: "A cheerful disposition is good for the heart, but gloom and doom wears down the spirit." How many of us have ever been that type of person where we're cheerful, we're excited, we begin to communicate with our words, with our faces, and oftentimes when we're burned in relationships, it affects our message. All of a sudden, this hardness comes over our heart, and maybe it has crept into our spirits. And when we communicate with other people from other places, other streams, other facets of ministry, that we begin to give them a message of hardness instead of the message of love, a message of we're not quite so sure, so we're not going to be as deep as we would like to be. Well, I'd like to suggest this to you. It's two little points. I want to, first of all, to have you check your face. Yes, there is a little ism of mine that is checking your face, looking in the mirror and see how you communicate with people. Sometimes we're not aware of how we come across to people in our faces, in our spirits. And sometimes in our faces, we come across like mean muggy people, right? We mean mug, we check them out, we size them up, we compare, making sure, are they safe or are they not safe? And I'm here to tell you, it's okay to kind of let our guards down and with the message of the gospel to receive healing from other people, to risk again, to hope again, to dive into relationship again. So always have this desire to check your face. Secondly, I want you to check your spirit. Sometimes when we've been burned in relationships, all of a sudden where we were in our relationship, we used to be lighthearted, we used to be fun, we used to be excited. But all of a sudden, this whole spot in our hearts, something crept in, and it's this hardness. The hardness of just life, the hardness of dealing with people. And as years go by, if you don't check your spirit, all of a sudden the message of love becomes a message of being annoyed, being abrasive, not having time for people. And that's not always an attractive element of our message when we speak about the love of Jesus. And so I'm here to encourage you, just as you are walking through life, get healing in some of these areas. Have someone and be vulnerable enough with that person to ask them, you know what, do I come across hard? Do I come across abrasive? Do I come across kind and tender, or a feeling of openness? And if not, can you let me know, be a mirror towards me, and let me know if I'm reflecting the love of God? And if not, can you say it nicely to me? I know at times that, the truth hurts, but it hurts good. And I'm here to encourage you, UYWI, that I know that in this season of ministry, there are a lot of things, especially in the people business, that people affect us, and in turn, we affect others. And I'm here to encourage you that if you get healing in some of these areas, and you keep yourself flexible and tenderhearted, lighthearted in some of these areas, you'll see a big payback into your ministry as well, and in relationships. I hope this helps you. Thank you so much for being with me.